welcome in, boys and girls, men and women. It is a January 9th edition of the Horse Racing Happy Hour, hanging out with Jason Beem. I'm Louis Rabeau in front of my fireplace in Louisville, Kentucky, because it is a solid 18 degrees outside. It was a solid 8 when I took my kids to school this morning, but I understand the real suffering is happening in Florida, Jason. And so I wanted to extend my condolences to a place with 40-degree temperatures. It's got to be brutal down there.
Yeah, we're up to like 52. I think we're going to be all right here. But it's funny. I told you before we came on air. I'll hear more complaints about the weather this week than you will with the foot of snow you guys are dealing with.
No, that's exactly right. We're going to talk to Jason ahead of a trio of stakes in Tampa. Something we'd love to do on this show, Jason, is get to know people around the country and their road to their derbies, right? So the road to the Tampa Bay Derby with the Pasco and all of that, and of course the Sam F. Davis. We'll talk about those as we go along. But as it is January, I've been picking people's brains about their favorite things from 2024, their horse of the year, those kinds of things. I thought we could start the conversation that way. Of course, you can catch Jason on if not North America's most popular horse racing podcast, it's up there. Jason Beem, presented by Twin Spires, of course. Go check him out over there. The horse of the year has seemed to very quickly move to, hey, I'm totally good with Torpedo Anna winning it. And even though she ran against 3-year-old fillies for most of the year, I'm an Eclipse voter. So I spent, a fair amount of time thinking about these things, Jason. And I agree with that sentiment, by the way. I think the totality of the award, what she brought to the sport, the way that the McPeak folks handled her availability, making her, available to folks at both, Clark Day here, for example, at Churchill Downs down the street from me, or, up at Saratoga all summer. Where did you fall in the horse of the year? And do you buy these arguments for Torpedo Anna?
I'm not a voter. I created my own award show because they wouldn't let me near the Eclipse Awards. And so, but I've never been a real big Eclipse person. It's just, it's so out of my realm of racing. Like I've always been at smaller tracks, and I'm at tracks now where we'll get the occasional Eclipse Award winner to show up. But, I don't know. It's just, I've never felt a real strong connection to it. And I'm being from out West too, like, we were never involved with it. Right. But I will say that, like, it seems that there's a little bit, if you watch the NFL, they almost always give the MVP to the quarterback, right? A running back guys running for 2,000 yards, they don't even consider him. And I think that we're falling into that trap a little bit in racing, where if you're either 3-year-old male or older male distance horse, that's who can get an Eclipse Award unless you do something crazy. And I know Ed had his rule that he was saying about how you have to beat males, and he was getting into the semantics of finishing ahead, and he was being Ed, which I like about Ed. But
fair enough.
I don't know. I just feel like if someone is super dominant in their division, they should definitely receive significant chances at the horse of the year. And I suppose she has, right? Like she's up for it. I would probably go there. I think because to me, she's the one I'm going to remember from this year. And I know that's not the criteria for the award, but like in 10 years, if you ask me about 2024 racing, I'll probably remember Torpedo Anna, and I'll be like, oh yeah, Sierra Leone won the Classic.
Right. Yeah. I think that's probably correct. And so we'll move away then from the Eclipse Award votes here and just sort of ask you personal stuff. Was there a favorite race either that you saw on television, you watched, you got to call, maybe that you attended in person? I have defaulted to the easiest thing in the world. We're very lucky. We have a table with this show every year at the Kentucky Derby. The Derby was the best race I've ever been to, Jason. Just the crowd reaction, the finish, all the things. What was on the line for it it's the greatest horse race I've ever attended. It's not very difficult for me to come up with that for 2024. How about for Jason Beem?
No, that it was a great Derby this year. And it's funny because it looked over at the 16th pole, right? Like I thought the winner was home. But for me, my favorite race in the country is the Long Acres Mile, and it's purely nostalgic and from growing up, and that's where I home from. And it was a really good addition this year. Like the winner 5-star general got up in the last jump, and Grant Forrester, who won it, is a Louisville guy, but he's from the Northwest, and so he loves and knows that race, and so nationally, I think the Travers and the Derby were probably my two favorites. The Travers, there's this great moment where I thought Fierceness had the race won, and then you see Torpedo Anna like make this one last surge, and Frank Miramati's voice, like you could hear it change with this, like, oh crap, this might happen, and he's like, she's surging, and like that, those little moments are like what I live for in this game.
So, as a track announcer then, and I love you bringing up that little nuance in Frank's voice, right? Where it really is, oh, cripe, she might get there kind of moment, right? Which is such a beautiful thing for all of us watching, not just the guy calling the race. Travis's call, getting the 1, 2, 3 in the Derby, Can you kind of tell people how difficult that is? Because look, I know you probably haven't called a 20 horse field at some point in your career, but you've almost certainly called a dozen horses, and that's
14,
difficult enough as it.
We've done 14,
14, right? There you go. If you're a Tony Kalo or whatever, you're a turf weight, you're calling 12 every race or whatever. But when you get a guy like, a finish like that and Travis nails the 1, 2, 3, how hard is that?
Well, the big thing is it depends where your booth is. And a lot of people aren't aware of that because there's most tracks you're not on the wire because photo finish has to be on the wire or the camera has to be on the wire, whatever. So we're usually not an afterthought, but we're usually one way or the other. At Tampa, I'm past the finish line by like 30 or 40 feet. And so on dirt, it's a little easier to call the photos because they're close to me and I'm pretty low. But on turf, when my first day there, like the first turf race I called at Tampa, I thought this horse won by like a long neck, maybe a half length. The photo comes up and it was like half an inch. And so you have to kind of learn your angles. Yeah. My first job at River Downs, it was dead center we were the second floor of the press box. So we were above. I called every photo for 3 years because it was so easy to do. But Travis is, I mean, he's if not one of the best going right now. And he's got a little bit of ice water in his veins, I feel like, because I would be so nervous in a spot like that just to talk, let alone call it as well as he does. I thought it was his best Derby call, but the race in a lot of cases makes the call, right? If it's just somebody pulls away at the top of the stretch, you can try to make it as big as you want, but sometimes there's just a comfortable win. But no, Travis, he's the man. Lots of love for him.
Yeah, even in the Justify year where he wins by open lengths, it's the all rise for Justify. He's always got something ready, right?
Yeah. You got to have you got to have your line. It's funny. Robert Geller, who does Woodbine, always talks about how he never has lines prepared and stuff like that. I go 50-50. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. But you have to because I feel like when you have the lines prepared, you're thinking about it too much instead of just calling the race. So.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I got to it's interesting you bring up Grant Forster. I got to interview him over the summer. I set up at that picnic table on the backside of Churchill Downs near the chute where they go in on the mile chute there. And Dale Romans rolled over on his golf cart and with a cigar and talked to me for 15 minutes. And then I got to interview Grant. And he talked about that mile, the Long Acres Mile. And it was ahead of the Indiana Derby. And he was, doing, I forget her name now.
Chitalis.
Who ended up winning. Thank you. Chitalis ends up winning the Indiana Derby. And he talked about just their being at a smaller track on their biggest day. How cool that experience is. And I've seen you at the Indiana Derby before, back when the cool kids went on Wednesday. You know what I mean? And so it's its own, but just being at those tracks on their biggest days is always really fun. I get to go to the Indiana Derby just because it's a 2-hour drive from here, but for sure, just really fun to be at those tracks for those big days.
I went with Scott Shapiro that year when I went to the Indiana Derby, and I remember we went and got lunch before we went. And so we kind of took a little bit of a back way through, and the GPS said that we were 4 minutes from a racetrack and there was nothing but cornfields. Shap, he never leaves Louisville. So this was all a new experience for him. He goes, there's no way there's a racetrack out here. I go, I promise, Shap. We took one turn and then it popped right up. But I've been going. It's funny. When I worked at River Downs, we used to go over when it was Indiana Downs, and it was before the casino, and it was such a nice, clean facility. And obviously, it's grown a lot over the years, both in size and profile. And always kind of enjoyed it over there. I have John Dooley, I know, and one of my friends is one of the stewards there, and so it's I follow a fair bit of a shoe, as we call it.
Yeah, fair. A little Dooley, a little Racing Rachel. They got a little bit of everything up there outside of Indianapolis. I've been asking everyone sort of their most disappointing moment of 2024, and mine is like a 3-parter essentially. Adair Manor runs, and then she can't run on the California Crown, so she's out. Idiomatic has to retire right before the distaff, so we missed that 3-way sort of battle between Adair Manor, Idiomatic, and Torpedo Anna and the distaff. That was the disappointment last year for me. Jason, did you have a different one by chance?
Oh, mine is purely selfish. When the entire East Coast tote system went down 25 minutes before our biggest race of the year.
Yes, it did. Yep.
That's not
even selfish, Jason. It's a bad moment.
No.
Okay.
Oh man. That was one of the stewards came in. The Florida Oaks was run, which is a turf race, even though it's the Suncoast is dirt, but I guess we'll talk about that. But The stewards come in, they said, hey, tote delay, be just a second. They come in like once every 2 or 3 weeks, and this just happens sometimes. There's some delay in the system. Sure. We all know racing's technology is fantastic. And so, but whatever, it takes usually 20 seconds to sometimes 2 minutes. So I didn't even think twice about it. And then 3 minutes later, they go, yeah, they're still waiting on this. Okay. And at this point, I've already switched my program page. I know the Derby horses left and right, but I'm starting to go over it again. And then it becomes 5 minutes and 10 minutes. I go to the stewards. I was like, what the hell's happening? And they go, there's something in Maryland that's going on. And like, it just kept happening and going. And then, I'm trying to call my boss, and obviously they're trying to negotiate with the horsemen. Right. And then all of a sudden, one of the stewards comes in. They go, they're coming on the track. They're going to run the race for 4 minutes. And I go, is the tote working yet? They go, nope. I go, oh God. And so what was nice for me was I didn't have time to be nervous because it was just so confusing. And then it was actually a pretty good race. It was like, there was no pace. They went like,
it was a good race.
But it was a 3-horse thriller, and
domestic product. All that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
God, it was weird. It was so eerie. Like I walked, because I had to stay upstairs for like an hour and a half after the races to like tell people like, hey, still not up. The teller at 6 o'clock, they're like, the tellers have to go home. Their shift is ending. And so it was a surreal, weird day, and just proof that anything can happen in racing.
I wanted to ask you, and you brought up that Florida Oaks being a turf race. We love to get into this. We do a Road to Pimlico series on this podcast every year with our friends Dan Ellman and John Piasek, and now with Callie Francois there at the Maryland Jockey Club. And we love to get to know these different paths, these different regional paths to the local Derby. And of course, Tampa Bay Derby is your Derby there after the Sam F. Davis. But of course, we'll run the Pasco first. You follow much of the same pattern of Maryland, which is starting at more of these 7 furlong kind of distances, one turn. Get the horses more used to that, moving on to the 3. Do you find that people actually know the name Sam F. Davis a little better than Tampa Bay Derby?
To some,
I feel like it just where it is in the calendar, it just seems to stand out a little bit.
Well, and it's I don't know. Sometimes it's weird, like you say that. I feel like just because it's his name, but what's funny is you'll ask people who Sam Davis was, nobody has a clue, and so, but they know his name for sure. I mean, the power of having your name after a big race. I mean, it's a thing. But I mean, we're lucky with the Tampa Derby too, is that we're kind of standalone in terms of preps that weekend. This, and in fact, usually there's a week of no preps after us. But Colonial is running the new Virginia Derby in the spring, so we have that weird kind of. So there'll be a race sandwiched after us there, but. No, the Sam has also had a little bit of a weird history, at least since I've been there. Like we had a big rainstorm one year, as they came onto the track, and but the Sam and the Derby, I mean, they're both a mile and a 16th, so they're very much the same race, just a month apart. Usually, obviously, a little bit tougher once the Tampa Derby comes around, but really, the last few years since I've been there, they've been similar races, and Classic Causeway won them both. My first year, and then Tampa Trice showed up the second year, so he won that one, but.
Evidence that Tampa Trice has won a race and not just run third. People, there it is.
He won the Bluegrass, right? I mean, he's great. Every Tampa Derby winner I've called has won a Grade 1 afterwards. There you go, three in a row. Classic Causeway won the Belmont Derby or whatever it was, one of those turf ones. Tampa Trice won the Bluegrass, and he won something. He won the Monmouth or whatever last year. And then
what a great random needless piece of trivia that was, Jason.
And domestic product won the Jerkins. So there you go.
Yes, he did. Man, oh man, he's already off the stud. How about that? You mentioned the Florida Oaks being on the turf. Is there any particular reason for that other than maybe it's different than Gulfstream? I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I'm guessing I'm guessing maybe it's a tradition thing, because the Suncoast has been a pretty useful prep. Nest and Wonder Wheel didn't run very good, but used that one. And then last year, Power Squeeze was, I believe, was in that race, but I might have to refresh my memory. But so it's been a very useful prep. And then the Florida Oaks is always, at least since I've been there, been a big field and a competitive race, but not anywhere near the Oaks Trail. I have no idea why it isn't. It might just be tradition. It might just be, hey, everybody's going to go to Gulfstream. I have no clue.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I've always know it's the race before the Derby.
Well, and it's nice to switch surfaces. So there you go. Jason Beem with us down there at Tampa. He'll be calling a trio of stakes races, the Pasco, Gasparilla, and Wayward Last this weekend at Tampa. What is the Hillsborough actually the highest grade at your place? The Grade 2, is that right?
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Derby was Grade 2 my first year, I think, and then Grade 1 winner Tappan Christ won it, so they downgraded it. Yeah, and actually the Sam F. Davis lost its grade. We've had a little tough luck with the grading committee this last couple of years. It just seems like everybody in Kentucky's goes up and everybody else goes down. I wonder why that is. So anyways, weird. But they yeah. So but no, the Hillsboro has been a grade 2 since I've been here and still is. Yep. And it tends to be a very Chad centric race. He's always pretty loaded in that race. Graham Motional. I mean, it's drawn some really nice horses over the years. Bleecker Street, probably my favorite. It was my first Hillsboro, but she started, she didn't start at Tampa, but like she ran an allowance and then a stake and then that one. And then obviously went on to have a really good career beyond Tampa. So she was kind of special just because she didn't get started here, but kind of became good here.
All right. So we'll do this and then we'll do some handicapping. You're in your green room and usually the green room is the prep room to go to the stage, right? But for you, this is the creative room. Is green a creative color for you?
My thinking was I bought my house. It's just a little old bungalow house in Clearwater, and it's just me. And so I had a bedroom, a guest room, and I wanted to have an office. But I like to do yoga and I like to paint, so I wanted something that was a little bit zen. And I just went and picked like the most obnoxious. I call it Kermit the Frog green. And but it just I feel happy in here. It's a great place. I got my paintings all over the walls, as you can see, and no, it's this is a good space. It looks over my backyard. I had I had this big beautiful oak tree that came down during the hurricane, and so but we finally got it cut up, and my neighbor's going to help me haul it. We're actually doing some hauling today, and then I think he's doing the rest tomorrow. I'll give him a couple $100, but he saved me a pile of money by having a couple chainsaws. Trust me.
No kidding.
But no, yeah, this is my little workspace. It's just kind of right off the back porch, and I love my little house.
How did you get into painting? How long have you been painting?
Only like a year and a half or 2 years. I went on a first date to one of those paint and sip places. I had my penmanship is terrible. I've never been able to draw anything. And I always thought the art was something you had or you didn't have. And I learned that it's
I'm of that assumption. Yes.
Yeah. And I very much learned that you can learn it. And so I did that class. I didn't go on a second date with the gal, but I went and bought paint sets the next day. And I got real into acrylic painting for a while. And then I started learning oil painting. I took an online class, and like last year, I mean, I was doing it 5-6 days a week, and now it's more of a once or twice a week kind of thing. But yeah, it's been a very, very fun hobby.
Jason Beem, the painter. I like it. All right. Well, our show today, presented by our friends at Manscaped. Go check them out, manscaped.com. Our promo code is horse racing, all one word. Get in 20% off and free shipping to your house. Maybe you just need to keep your hair trimmed up. Like mine, not a lot going upstairs for me, but it does help me keep
you ain't kidding.
My beard in place as well.
It's getting small.
Promo code horse racing, 20% off and free shipping to your house. If you just need something to shave your face, they do have great options with straight razors as well. Our friend Dan Issel, friend of the show, uses their straight razor at his house. And of course, in our handicapping segment, we are presented by AmWager. Get a $1 for $1 match on a up to $150 deposit for new users over with our friends at AmWager, amwager.com. Go check them out. Today, we got a trio of stakes and a middle pick 4 here, Jason, that I think is kind of fun. If people are unfamiliar with betting at Tampa, the pick 5s, very playable, 15%, and an extraordinarily playable 18% on the doubles, the pick 3s, and the pick 4s at Tampa as well. Jason, those numbers are right? Yeah, I got that. Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
Okay, good.
The 18 pick 4. I always feel a little bit pleasantly happy about that, because I feel like so often people are like, yeah, pick 5s, 15, 12, whatever it is, and then it's like 26 for the pick 4.
I know,
so,
right?
Yeah.
So the 18 is really playable.
Yeah, the pick 5s, we've had a couple carryovers so far this season, which is always kind of, it's good for the house, obviously, and players enjoy it. But ours, you have to get a little bit of separation, like anywhere. But I mean, the early one seems to be the bigger pool and usually the smaller fields. So sometimes that one will pay better with just a little bit of separation, because I think that like everybody's pounding more the chalkier combos because it's just smaller fields. You used to see that at Golden Gate a lot, like the 6-horse fields. But if you beat 3 or 4 favorites, like you could really jump up and pay out. But if you didn't, you were sticking with $40-$50.
No, that's right. Jason with us from down there at Tampa. The first stakes of the day will be the Pasco. It is the 3-year-old male side of things, 7 furlongs on the dirt there. We see the return here, Jason, of an Owen Almighty. When you do your handicapping for these kinds of races, how do you take a horse like this moving from 2 to 3, off of a little bit of a layoff here.
Well, I've noted on my show for years, like every year, these really good 2-year-olds, they just get smashed at the windows, and Owen Almighty is going to get bet. I do think the 4 and the 5 rookie card Naughty Rascal will take some money, so Owen Almighty's not going to be a crazy favorite, but with Irad showing up and with a little bit of the hype machine behind him, like he's going to. Fun fact too, he's owned by my old boss who used to own Grants Pass Downs. Travis Boersma's group is it used to be Board Shorts, and now it's what is it, Flying Dutchman? I forget what they're
Flying Dutchman breeding and
racing. Yeah. So but it's same silk, same logo and everything. He owns Dutch Bros Coffee out west. But anyway. Yeah, he's got Mrs. Worldwide too, so they're sending a couple out here. But no, I just on these kind of horses at super short prices, I always think it's worth trying to beat them. If they come back and they're great, okay, awesome. But I mean, the number of times you've seen like Fierceness and these other ones who Fierceness obviously made the jump to 3, but he at least wasn't primed and ready that first one. It's just hard to take short prices because there's a lot that's happened since September 14th in these horses' lives. And, certainly the cutback to 7 is probably good for this horse. The last workout's really good. The fact that it's IRAD is probably pretty good. And Brian Lynch has gone through this series before with Classic Causeway, and he said as much in the forum the other day. Like his plan is for this one, if he likes it here, to stay for the SAM and for the Derby and to kind of make his way to the Kentucky Derby, via our path. So I'm sure all systems are go. The other thing is, I thought Naughty Rascal was very good at the inaugural stakes. Donut God, who won, was super tripped out. Like he just sat, he just kind of comfortably on the lead, and Naughty Rascal was running at him at the end. And I know there's questions about Donut God getting the distance, but it was 6 furlongs. Like he didn't have to get a distance. Right. So I just think Naughty Rascal's a very nice horse. Jerry Bennett, it's kind of funny. You see this horse, he runs those first 3 really good races. They try the turf and he wins. Jerry's the few times over the years, like you'll think like, oh, he maybe has a Derby horse, and then he'll jump it on the turf. Or he had one that won one of the Oaks. I think he won the Suncoast the year he beat Wonder Wheel, and then ran in the Florida Oaks instead of kind of take the Oaks Trust. So he'll do some untraditional things. I thought this was a very traditional next spot for Naughty Rascal.
In that race, they finished it at 109 flat. Is that fast for Tampa, or can we expect to see that in the Pasco?
That's Holland cookies for sure. It's 108. Okay. I think 108.68 is the track record. That's Beem, who was a really good 6 furlong. And I mean, it's our most common distance, right? So yeah, it was a very fast time. It was a pretty fast day though, too. So that's always.
What is the weather looking like? I've seen like 45% chance of rain. Is that Florida 45%, meaning it's going to spit rain for 45 minutes? Or is that like it's actually going to rain on Saturday?
So everything I'm showing now is that we've moved away from the rain predictions. It's supposed to be 69 and sunny Friday and then just cloudy Saturday. The rain now is pushed back to Monday, but yeah, the weather here can, like you said, there's been many days where I've gone to work thinking it's not going to rain at all, and then it rains, and then some days it's supposed to rain. I don't trust it a whole heck of a lot.
Is outside of the 3 that you mentioned in the Pasco, is Very Bold the most likely to, sneak up, finish second, that kind of thing?
That's not the one. Okay, good. Yeah. I was like, I think the one horse is very much outclassed in the spot. I think you could probably argue that. Teresa Pompey's horse was a nice winner last time, but that was a gate to wire. There's a fair bit of other speed in here. I think rookie card is super interesting with Junior Alvarado coming up for Danny Gargan. Maybe one. I mean, the thing was, he didn't really get loose last time. He had to duel, but he was 1-2 also, so he probably just much the best. Yeah, Very Bold, I think, if anything, should have kind of a good clunker type trip in terms of being off the pace. And if they really go bonkers up front, 7 furlongs is a funny distance, right? Sometimes when they hook up, you can really get fall apart races. And Owen Hardy, it seems like his horses are running good here, but it seems like lately, last month or two, even going back to the Remsen day there, his horses are just running good as of late. So certainly one that's got a chance.
And of course, Jesus Castanon knows the course very well. Has his tack down there in Florida. We move to the Gasparilla Race 5.
Having a tough season this year, though.
Yeah, no, a lot of seconds, frankly. It's kind of why I brought him up as a potential exacta candidate there, unfortunately, for him. But 7 furlongs on the dirt for the gals now. Gasparilla, 150K in the kitty here for this one here. We see a Dancing Magic in here at 3-1. And of course, Irad Ortiz on Mrs. Worldwide in that same Flying Dutchman ownership group that you mentioned, Jason. Almost certainly going to be outside of winning you're in, who is 2-1 here, coming up from Gulfstream Park a Florida bred in that case. Really interesting mix of horses here, Jason.
Yeah, I haven't seen the morning line yet, so I was curious. What did they put Mrs. Worldwide at?
5-2. Winning You're In is actually the favorite here at 2-1.
Favorite.
And Dancing Magic
multiple stakes winner, right? That makes a little bit of sense.
Even if they're Florida stakes, I agree. Yes.
Yeah, our line guy Mark Luther does a pretty nice job. I usually, just like anybody, he'll miss, but he one thing I love about him, he really cares about it. Like he's messaging me all the time, like, what do you think about this one? And so I love that about Mark. But yeah, Winning You're In. I mean, that last race was obviously such a dud. I think that it sticks out a little bit. But if you throw that one out, I get why the horse would be the favorite. But that was going 2 turns. Those Sire Series races or Stallion Series races down at Gulfstream, I love them every year because inevitably somebody smashes in the sprint ones and then gets way overbet in the route ones and comes back. There was maybe a little bit of that with this one. This is Worldwide. I went back and watched the Sandpiper last night and kind of trying to think like, okay, maybe Dancing Magic didn't have quite the trip that Mrs. Worldwide did, but no, she just wasn't as fast. And Mrs. Worldwide was ahead of her early and stayed ahead of her late. And, it was, I thought the horse, Hollow Grove, I think was another hardy horse who kind of shook late to rally up. But no, I just thought Mrs. Worldwide was the better of the two. And obviously first couple starts here on dirt this year have been pretty fantastic. I mean, you throw out the one race at Ellis and her resume is very, very strong as well. And seemingly getting better. And the problem with betting her is with IRAD jumping on board, the price, he's one of the few riders really that can go anywhere. And when he leaves his mainstays, New York, it magnifies how much he gets bet. When he comes to Colonial, he just gets smashed at the windows.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. Another jock that's going to be in town has only ridden 3 times in this meet is Junior Alvarado, riding for, frankly, lots of different trainers. So it's not as though he's in for Bill Mott or something like that, like we expect to see him with lots of places. Looking around outside of that, Jason, especially if we have someone listening who's, an exacta play or something like that, they're playing each race individually rather than trying to hit this middle pick 4, something like that. Is there a local connection that people should be watching for at Tampa that might actually pay some dividends for them on Saturday?
I've only looked at the stakes cards. I'll be honest. It's funny. Like you.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is there a just a general one. I'm trying to think it like, okay, so like the 4 horse here of Vuela Paloma here for Centino and for Bennett. I mean, like, is that the kind of, are they a good pair there at Tampa? Is that a group we should be looking for?
It's funny. They don't pair up a whole lot, which is actually kind of interesting. Yeah. Like, it's a lot of, Jerry does use a fair number of riders. He doesn't necessarily have just the one he uses, but obviously used it with Daniel with this horse last time and got a win. So bringing him right back, but you see like they've only run a handful of times together. Daniel rides pretty sparingly these days. It seems like he kind of just wants to ride the good ones. We're starting to see that with Pablo Morales too, where, they're really just right. Pablo usually will ride the turf races because he's so good at those. But outside of that, usually, he's not getting on a lot of 8,000 on 1 or 2 kind of thing. And so, but there's Jose Ferrer's had a great year this year, and he, I believe, is either at or near 60 years old, and still like he apprenticed with Richard Migliore. Mig was talking about that on the Fox show. Like, he's like, we were bug boys together. And so
that's amazing. But I love it.
Jose was our jockey of the month, and he's off to a very fast start. I think kind of a sneaky underrated rider here is Melissa Iorio. She had a really good apprentice here and went to Monmouth and had a pretty nice summer and got off to a really slow got off to a really slow start here this season, but I feel like she's had one win like each of the last 5 days or something like that. Seems like she had some good mounts early on, just was just not winning. But I always feel like she's going to. Michael Campbell, who you mentioned, Dancing Magic, I think usually a super sneaky good trainer, not a big barn. I know he's 9% this year, but like, Patriot Spirit's one that he has that's a little bit more of a national type horse. And he's just one of those barns. Him and Michael Wright are 2 that are down here that I always just think they always have nice horses. They're always in good spots, and they're always contenders, even though you don't hear about them like you do a lot of the other barns.
We will lean on your local knowledge here for a maiden special weight in the middle of the card here. Race 6 is a $53,000 maiden special weight. We're going a mile and a 16th on the turf. This is for Fillies Bears 4. And also, we have hit that part of the year where we see.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
After so many months of 3 and up, It's. I haven't written 2024 on a check yet, or typed it into something yet, but I have written 3 and up when I meant 4 and up on something. Definitely on a show sheet at this point in the year. Look, just from the outside and living in a place with a crappy turf course, I love your turf course there at Tampa Bay.
Oh, I don't know how. It's funny, like they
might be the best in the country. I don't know.
They keep it up really good, and we run 90 days, and we run turf probably 80 of those days. We
Right.
get washed off every once in a while. And I heard that we took off in advance of some expected weather a week or two ago, and some people were kind of complained about it on Twitter. And I'm like, this guy's been doing Tommy McLaughlin. He's been doing the turf course for 100 years. And like, and you have beyond this weekend
awesome
to think about. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think they do a really good job, and it tends to play pretty fair. You can win from most spots. It got a little bit speed favory for just I think a one weekend, but they changed the rails up a fair bit. Generally for big days, they drop the rails down to 0. If that's the case, I always watch for speed, just because they get to run on kind of that unfettered grass, those inside path or two. They do it Colonial as well, and I've seen it over the years. Colonial, one of my favorite angles. The first weekend, like, speed cannot win, and I've never figured it out, because you think it's all nice, pristine grass at that point. But I remember a couple of years ago, Travis filled in for me for a week because I had to have a stomach procedure, and he messaged me. He goes, "God, every race is falling apart in closers. Those are the hardest races to call, because because they're kind of flying from everywhere, and every year it just seems like they come storming off." This particular race, though, is a fun one, and on these big days, there, usually there's a couple good maiden special weights. You'll see the occasional Chad first and stuff. I don't like Chad's horse in here at all, just because to me it just reeks of, like, okay, we thought he was a dirt horse, because believe me, Chad tries a lot of horses on turf to start, right? So the fact they ran 3 times on dirt and they kind of got progressively worse makes me think this is a little bit of a hey, let's try kind of thing. The other thing I would suggest folks do, because I haven't seen the final program yet, and I'm handicapping off the initial PPs. Sometimes big days will start our turf races out of the stretch and not the chute. Make sure because it'll have the proper diagram and whatever your past performance is, but they usually don't set that till it's final. So because
it's not in the DRF at this point, by the way. Just it's not up there yet. Yeah.
And so, but it's such a different trip, because you're running for a mile race. You're only running a 16th of a mile before you go in, and things can get real tight. If you're an inside speed horse, you're great. You're kosher. But fine. If you're inside and you're a closer, like you're gonna have to drop all the way back, because everybody's trying to cross in front of you. Whereas when it starts in the straightaway, I feel like it's a little. There's really no big advantage. Plus, you have that much longer run to the first turn. The other horse in this race I kind of was against was Enchant, who makes a lot of sense because she's been ultra consistent. This just feels like a little bit of a tougher race. The Delacour firster, you got there's a Clement horse in here. There's a few potentially really nice ones. If Starship Boeing draws in, I think she's super live.
Okay,
she or he, she. And so. Yeah, I was more against a couple in here that are going to take money, being the 2 and the 9, and so this would probably be the race where I'd try to get a little bit of coverage and try to beat both those two.
Is Sammy Camacho still kind of the guy at Tampa?
There's no kinda about it. He, but I will say I think he's leading the standings, but not by much. Samuel Marin has become a major player on our course and circuit. He rides for Jerry Bennett a lot. We were talking about Jerry earlier, but Samuel I think has 31 wins, and Sammy is I think got just a few. Actually, according to my PPs, they're a couple apart, but Sammy had a triple yesterday, so they're neck and neck right now. And it's funny because it's confusing. There's a Samuel Camacho Jr. who rode a lot for David Jacobson. I think he's in Turfway, but that's Sammy's brother. They're both they're Sammy and Samuel. So, Sammy's been the guy here. Yeah, Sammy's been the guy. Believe me, they would run in the same races last year, and I always had to remember, like, okay, that's Samuel, not Sammy. And but yeah, Sammy's been the guy here for a while, and until the other Samuel Marin can knock him off. I mean, he's because the other thing is, like, Gallardo and Pablo Morales, Centeno, they just don't ride as much. Sammy's riding most of the card still at this point.
All the time. Yeah, right. Yep, no, that's right. Jason Beem with us from down there, Tampa Bay Downs. We are looking at the final race of the middle pick 4 here. Race 7 is the wayward last $100,000 race here. This is for fillies and mares 4 and up. We're going a mile and a 16th here. Peignoir's in here is going to be the big favorite for Rodolphe Risset. She's also entered up here at Turfway Park, but she's been working really well at Keeneland. Hopefully, do you know anything about her? Was she able to get out of Kentucky? I mean, that's really a question right now.
Well, I was trying to figure out how to say her name, so I'm glad that
Oh yeah, I'm here for you, buddy. Yeah, yeah. I speak both French and Spanish, so I'm good for this. Like this is what I should be doing. Yeah.
When it comes to my announcing prep, like I usually don't do it until the night before because we still got Friday's card to go over, right?
So yeah, right.
And so but I'll if there's any name questions, I'll go watch replays. And forvo.com is our that's the announcer favorite website is going for the, like Chad had one the other day that was like pourquoi pas, and so I had to look up the French pronunciation. But but no, I mean that horse. I think that horse actually makes quite a bit of sense. I mean that last try obviously was against just much tougher. I mean this is not Graded Stakes Company, and she kind of, I thought, maybe had the trip she wanted. The mud certainly could have been a question because the other time she ran on a good track was when she got really thumped at Ellis Park, and so I was wondering if maybe the off track was a little bit of the excuse last time. But I like the draw down toward the inside because she's got some natural speed. Unless the other thing is, I don't think, I mean, the 2 and the 8, and I suppose Abundancia, the 3 could probably be in the mix, but I feel like Peñuar is either going to be on the lead or going to be sitting third, like just down on the rail and kind of getting the trip. And it looks to me like there's a bit of a separation between those speed horses and the closers. So I wouldn't mind it to see her just kind of park in third and come from behind. But, I mean, there's Abundancia. I think some of the people are going to see that there's maybe not a ton of speed and maybe try to send. It's always, that's the puzzle, right? It's trying to figure out who's going to go, who's not going to go. Junior Alvarado has little Jamie, who ran pretty good on the lead last time out, so that one could be forwardly placed. But I think for Peñuar, it's going to be a situation where it's like, I read, see where you break. If you break good, then go for the lead. If you don't, just park it right along the rail and let whoever cross over.
I'm not going to assume that you were familiar with this show in 2020, Jason, but we had a very long-running joke on this show. One of my very best calls on this show was that I had King Guillermo at Tampa Bay.
Oh, nice.
And so we have had King Guillermo jokes on this show for 5 years. I'm never going to stop them. We love that horse. We had a whole thing planned. Of course, he gets sick Derby week, so we don't get to have fun with King Guillermo. Did you get to call King Guillermo at any point in his career? I would be very jealous if you did.
I think I might have. I'll look it up here on Equibase. I certainly didn't call that Derby because I remember
right. It's right before your time.
Yeah, because if I remember right, it's Victor Martinez's stable, right?
Yes, that's right. Yes, it is. Yes,
yeah, because he comes up here a fair bit, and well, the horse never ran beyond 2021, so I definitely didn't call him.
Well,
hold on. He ran. I knew I did. He ran in the Pelican Stakes my first year, and he ran dead last.
Yes. I don't care. That's what I'm talking about. Zach, we can retire. We talked to a guy who called the King Guillermo race. There it is. Boom. Done. We don't need to be here anymore. We're done.
Grunder's call him like King Guillermo. Like I still hear his name in Grunder's voice.
The other thing is when he goes to Oaklawn, right? He still needs a couple points to make sure he qualifies. He finishes second in the Arkansas Derby. Yeah, and Victor Martinez leaps the couch watching it. I thought was just such a cool moment. Just so excited just to qualify for the Derby. One of those fun moments.
Victor's awesome. Like he because he comes out to Tampa and he'll sit, they get him a box and they treat him good and stuff. But like he brought signed bats for a few different employees. Nice. And like he just takes photos with everybody. He just seems like a really cool guy. I haven't got to meet him because I'm upstairs. I love to tell my bosses, like Coach Cooper from the Lightning comes out a fair bit. Lou Piniella comes out, and I'm like, I'm the biggest Mariner fan ever. Lou Piniella was our manager. I said maybe just bring him up to the booth. I don't have guests to the booth. Like I try not to do that because I'm nervous. I'm nervous enough as it is. But I'm like, Lou Piniella can come upstairs because I want to ask him about Edgar Martinez. Right. Yeah, the double against the Yankees and stuff. But it's funny, like anytime there's somebody famous there, I never get to meet him because I'm stuck upstairs.
Yeah, you're busy. You're working. That's right. Yeah. No, it is interesting getting to know. I love Jason. I love what you do, and I'm very jealous of people that can do it. And Zach is probably smiling in the background of this show right now, just how much I enjoy talking to track announcers, and we all have our favorites and different things. Is there someone that you try to stylize your calls after?
Nope. It's funny, like the people I would say are my influences or my favorites
don't sound like you, right?
Yeah, like I love Durkin, I love Vic Stoff. Like I like the big bombastic call. I like Pete. If I have a big race, I want Pete calling it because I know I'm the hair on my arm is going to stand up if it's an exciting race. And my style's much more to the point, not too over the top. I just try to be as accurate and have a pleasant voice and not, take away, hopefully add just a little bit. I think if I was going to say my style's close to, I guess maybe Dave Rodman would be who I would say, just because we're both pretty fast. And but like Robert Geller was a favorite of mine. Like I'm not like Robert at all. I still think Robert sees a race better than anybody. If you watch when a horse at Woodbine, there could be a head-and-head battle, or a horse goes in front by like Robert will call the horse the winner at the 16th pole in his voice. Like you can tell that he thinks, oh, he's going on, he's going to take it now, and he'll win by this far. And he's insane at that. He's the best photo caller too, I think.
I have an important question. Can you teach Louis to be pleasant and calm while he's on the air?
No. He's a paid professional broadcaster. What are you talking about? Yeah.
Got my name on my own show. How about that? Deal with that, Zach. How about that? Jason Beem sticking up for me. How about that? Well, I love that. Well, check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast. If you are the only person in horse racing that doesn't listen to Jason, shame on you. You will never win a Beamy Award because those have gone away as well. So it's just it's how it goes. We're not going to bother you ahead of the Tampa Bay Derby because we always bother Barry Spears. Say something nice about Barry Spears.
I love Barry. Barry always has matching shoes, T-shirt, and bandana whenever he comes to Tampa. Yeah, I always tell him what horse he looks like, because like last year he showed up with maroon shoes, maroon shirt, and maroon bandana. I said, Barry, you're the 14 horse. No, Barry's always been super cool to me, and he loves coming out to Tampa, and he's just good people.
He loves Tampa.
In fact,
he does.
One of my favorite post race dinners was with Barry and Chuck Simon a couple years ago, and what was great was Chuck. I mean, I'm 6'4". Chuck was probably right in my ballpark, and Barry's right. Like we're three very large guys.
Basketball player,
yeah. And we're standing we went to this place called Frenchie's, and it was like an hour wait or something. And Chuck goes, just keep standing right here by the desk. He goes, I guarantee you they're going to get annoyed of us standing here. They'll see us. We were seated 15 minutes. So just us big oafs just standing there. And so,
you make a better door than window. That's right. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Ever since then, I was like, that's the move. You got to just get right up in their face and let them not forget you.
I now understand why Louis brings Dan Issel everywhere.
No, that's right. Yeah, no.
You mean NBA Dan Issel?
Yeah, he and I did radio together for a year and a half.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah. He turned 75 and he's like, I got to get out of here.
He was the coach of the Nuggets, right?
He was the coach of that Matumbo team that beat your Supersonics. Yeah.
Oh, buddy, that was a brutal one.
He is the third leading scorer for the Nuggets of all time.
Yeah, still. Yeah,
that was when the Nuggets had that great city skyline jersey.
Yeah, the rainbow and all that.
Yeah, those were fantastic.
Bro, when he retired, 3 professional players had more points than he did. Their names are Wilt, Dr. J, and Kareem. That's it. Dan was unbelievable. People forget he was unbelievable, and he's unbelievably good at radio. I mean, he's just stunningly good at this stuff, and he's funny, and he's still really sharp. And
that Sean Kemp, Gary Payton team, that was a tough beat, Louis.
Oh, bro, Jason, you should. I should get the two of you in the same room. He tells the story. George Karl left the playbook on the bench. Dan just took it.
George, yeah. Oh man, I want to say I was in like 9th or 10th grade, and the Mariners had this great year, 95, where they finally made the playoffs. And they had that great run and stuff. But prior to that, like we had never had a good team since I'd been alive. Like the Sonics won in 77. I was -3. And so the 80s, the Mariners, everybody, we just sucked. And so to have like those two really good teams back-to-back years, like we were, and when you're 15, like that's when you're into it more than anything. Like we had cards we were collecting. I mean, I used to know. I was for some
Ken Griffey Jr. baby.
Oh, man.
There's rookie card, and every year I get a foil.
I've told people this. There's no more exciting feeling in sports than like the electricity of the Kingdom when he was coming up to bat. They'd play hip hop, hooray, ho, hey. But like you knew that every time he came up, there was a chance of something insanely incredible happening. And I mean, he was just. That guy was him and Edgar Martinez are my 2 favorite players ever.
Steal home from first base.
You're right. Yeah, right. Yeah, do something. Yeah. No, he was out of his mind, man.
I also want to.
All right. Well, Jason, we really appreciate you jumping on.
Cut your man off.
Crap. I did not mean to do that. Zach, you there?
No, it's okay.
I hit the wrong button, dude. I'm so sorry.
The timing on that on my end was so funny.
It's unbelievable.
Dan is one of the most charitable guys of all time. He's part of the team that got the ABA players NBA retirement salaries.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Pensions. Yeah. No, he's still real active, and I did not do that one. That was not me. That was Zach removing himself from stage.
He's like, "Oh, I want to tell you."
Sorry about that. I want to say something nice about Issel. Oh man, yeah. Well, there you go. Well, yeah, it's not stretch out season. Actually, it's stretch out season. We celebrate stretch out season around here. Jason, go from one turn to 2 turns. That's what time of year it is. He's Jason Beem. Have you seen the Derby winner yet? You think?
I mean, I'm sure we probably have. I don't
what
start
a horrible idea.
Yeah, I don't start my Derby trail till the Lecomte. That's for me.
Okay.
I always feel like that's when I really, because what's weird is those first few weeks, at least, like I've seen the horse, but I don't remember them other than the ones that win the juvenile or something like that. And so there's a little bit of I always feel like post Lecomte, as you get to the Southwest, I feel like that's when like my education on each class kind of starts, because there's so many 2-year-olds to pay to, like those Stars of Tomorrow card. Like I just get lost in those because it's like I know I watched a lot of those races, but I don't remember any of them. And it's like I'm announcing
110 horses to learn.
I know, and it's like when you're calling races, like because with the podcast I try to just follow the big national races, but a lot of times the best stuff to talk about's the allowances or maiden race and stuff like that. But it's hard to keep up with those. So yeah, my Derby trail, like the Lecomte is the start of that, which I think is next week, by the way, or the week after. I think it's 25th.
It's in 2 weeks. Yes, that's right. Yep.
Yeah,
that's right. Yep. So there you go. Well, to celebrate Jason, we'll put this one up. We voted for the other guy on the Eclipse Awards, so there you go.
Yeah,
he's Jason Beem.
We didn't vote at all.
Calling in Tampa ahead of the trio of races this weekend. Maybe we'll catch up with you. I love, by the way, that you call it the Sam. I don't know what it is about that. I need a hat that just says the Sam. If you could do that.
What's funny too, I've never met. I mean, he's long gone, but like, yeah, I like calling it the Sam. I don't know why.
Because it's awesome. That's why. He's Jason Beem. Find him on the pod and calling the races in Tampa. Jason, we appreciate you, man.
Thanks, guys.
See you, buddy. There you go. Jason Beem. He is out of here. We'll put Zach back on stage and yell at him. You're flanneled up today, you old dad. Look at you. I mean, what a ridiculous thing for you to be all flanneled up. Look at you.
I want to say that the new year, I got some flannels as a present.
Nice. And you
for
love
Christmas. And I love them. And I had 2 others. So now I'm on a 4-day rotation of flannels, with Friday being my t-shirt day.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, Jeff, on with Jason. How about that? Little post, post Jason talk. That guy, yeah, he's awesome. You can tell why he's got a wildly popular podcast. Yeah, he's
oh my gosh. Not only that, but like, to combine that with a horse announcer. I mean, he has so many insights.
Yeah, track announcing so different than this. Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, it's a completely different skill set. Yeah.
And there's something about our generation that those Renaissance sports casters don't exist anymore, right? Like it used to be when we were younger, like if you were Kenny Maynes, you could call basketball, you could call horse racing, you could call whatever. And
then Sunday morning sports reporters on ESPN or something.
Exactly.
Part of that dais, right? No, seriously. Yeah, you're right.
And now everyone's specialized. So it's nice to see someone like Jason who does talk sports like you do, who can talk horse racing and then just life, right? Seattle Mariners in the 90s.
By the way, a little hashtag contender for our guy Jason Beem today. Appreciate that.
Amazing.
Very fun. All right.
Yep.
All right.
Louis,
man,
what is the biggest change you're hoping for our horse racing happy hour this year?
On the show itself?
Yep.
We're going to take more trips to more races. That's what we're doing. We're going to more stuff. We're going to announce very soon which Derby prep I'm leaving Kentucky for. Of course, if you listen to this show, you know that academic team has totally screwed up my ability to go to anywhere. I'm coaching too many kids here on academic team locally. And so messed up my ability to go to some of those races, but we will be announcing really soon which Derby prep we will be attending outside the state of Kentucky. On top of that, of course, I'll be going to the Ruby and the Bluegrass and all those things as well.
Louis, this year we're going to have swag. So you see that sweatshirt, everybody? Those are going to be available to buy.
Yeah, okay. That's true too. Well, we'll do that, and we'll have we'll get our Road to Pimlico shirt, hats out and all that stuff in the next couple of weeks here as well. So if people want to get in on the swag, they can definitely do that as well. Well, he's producer Zach. I'm Louis Rabeau at Horse Happy Hour for the show, at Radio Louis for me. So make sure you go follow us on the socials. You can find us pretty much anywhere there. Go follow us on YouTube if you haven't. We'd really appreciate the follow there as well. And thanks to our friends out at and by the way, very personal. We are streaming on the Sporting Tribune's Twitter page. Zach, I don't know if you've seen the updated number, but Arash, who runs it out there, pointed out that there has now been more acreage burned in LA than Manhattan.
Yeah, it's brutal out there right now.
Brutal right now. So many of our listeners are based in LA and San Diego and the surrounding areas.
Yep. The hills are on fire. Hollywood signs.
Yeah, and I would pretend that we can help or whatever else. But hopefully, if this was a distraction, that's great, and hopefully you're safe and your family's safe, and there's some kind of remediation that happens after this. But he's Zach. I'm Louis. We'll be back next week. I haven't even looked. I have no idea what races we'll be talking about, but we'll be back next week here on the Horse Racing Happy Hour.